You know, we only get to have one last slate before the Super Bowl each year, and congrats, you found us. This is it on the DraftKings YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter channels. We thank you for being here with us. Adam Kaufman, Matt LaMarca, Steve Buchanan. We will be guiding this thing for another, 45 minutes until the next Madden simulation to help you wrap up your Friday. But of course, we are sitting here a little more than 48 hours away from the Super Bowl. A lot of football to get to, both DraftKings Sportsbook and, of course, DFS. DraftKings has a millionaire contest available to you in the lobby. You should check that out. But before we dive into all that, something we did a little bit of yesterday with Reed T. Fowler, recapping, and, of course, Julian Edlow as well, recapping the NBA trade deadline. It was an eventful one, guys, one unlike anything we've seen in recent memory. You had the long rumored LaMarca trade rumor that actually came to fruition with the Sixers and the Nets. James Harden winds up going from Brooklyn, where seemingly it feels like he never wanted to be, to Philadelphia to now, of course, play alongside Joel Embiid. And Ben Simmons, I think, is going to play basketball again at this point. He goes to Brooklyn to play with Kevin Durant when he returns, and Kyrie Irving when he decides he feels like playing. That's obviously the big trade. So you tell me, what'd you make of this thing now that it's actually happened?
Yeah, I'm a little surprised at how pro the Nets side of this deal has been interpreted as, right? Like, people love the fact that the Nets were able to get Ben Simmons for James Harden. And I get it, right? He had 1 foot out the door. It sounded like he was leaving in the offseason, but I just don't think they're a better team now than they were 48 hours ago. Ben Simmons is the biggest wild card in the league right now. Who knows what you're going to get out of that dude? And come playoff time, defenses are just not even going to pay attention to him, right? They're going to sag off him 15, 20 feet, dare him to shoot, and that's going to muddle up the spacing for guys like Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. They're still the betting favorites right now on DraftKings Sportsbook. I think that if you look at the ceiling of a Ben Simmons team versus a James Harden team, the ceiling is clearly higher when the Nets had Harden in the fold. So for me, it's a downgrade for them, at least for this year.
I just think what's interesting is people are talking about Ben Simmons like he's going to waltz in there like he just played a full season. When in fact, it's never mind what you think of the fit or what you think of the ceiling, him versus James Harden. Who knows what his basketball shape is going to be? Who knows what the chemistry with these two guys is going to be? Who knows when Kevin Durant is going to be available? Who knows how much the rest of the way down the stretch here that Kyrie Irving is actually going to play, despite, of course, GM Sean Marks for Brooklyn saying earlier today that Kyrie Irving is frustrated that he can't play in home and away games, as if there isn't something that he can go and do about that if he wants to. And, you pointed out that looking at the DraftKings Sportsbook, the Nets are plus 370 to win the championship. And it wouldn't shock me, LaMarca. It wouldn't take that much for this team to not even make the playoffs.
Yeah. I mean, they're in the 8th seed right now. So
they're sitting right in the thick of the play-in tournament. Yeah. A couple games out from a playoff spot in a very crowded conference.
Yeah. And again, if they have Kevin Durant on the floor during the play-in tournament, they would be pretty significant favorites, right? Because he's that good. He's still probably the best player in the league when he's fully healthy. But like you said, there's who knows what kind of shape Ben Simmons is in. And there's just going to be minimal opportunities for these guys to gel during the remainder of the regular season, right? Kevin Durant's hurt and Kyrie Irving's playing in half the games. So I don't think Ben Simmons is like this, this guy that you can just easily fit into a new offense, right? He's kind of like a square peg that needs a square hole. And the Nets just don't have all that much time to retool their offense, which is basically what they did. They changed everything, and they have 25 games to figure it out, essentially.
Yeah, and Simmons was just so sensitive about the Philadelphia media in the first place. Like, what does he think it's going to be like going to New York? I know, obviously, he was just looking for an opportunity to play and wanted to get out of there and sulked his way into a new situation, which effectively James Harden did as well. I do think that whereas I agree with everything that you're saying about the Nets, I do think you're underselling a little bit about, of what we could expect with a really reinvigorated Philadelphia situation, obviously with, Joel Embiid is already playing at an extraordinarily high level. And then obviously James Harden, who, as Charles Barkley joked about on TNT when they were announcing the All-Star games, picking the two teams with the captains there, like, trades made, he's healthy, he's fine, he's going to go in there and I think
that was hilarious television.
Oh, it was unbelievable. I mean,
I'm gonna need some size with this one,
God bless Kevin Durant for keeping a straight face through all of that as well. I mean, played the straight man well, but I do think that, him going in there, like, remember how well he played when he got to Brooklyn in the first place after he had sulked his way out of Houston? Well, I think we're going to see the same thing again. I think they're going to fit well together.
I hear you. I think the reports of Harden's demise have been greatly overstated, right? I mean, yes, he's 32, but 32 ain't exactly 40.
Right.
The guy is still
not football.
Right. The guy has still got some good ball left in him. The 76ers thing, I kind of now worry about. I think Seth Curry was really important for them. He is one of the premier floor spacers in the league. You take him away, and now things get a little bit more crowded for Joel Embiid on the interior. So that's like a little bit of a negative repercussion of trading him away. But yeah, they got James Harden, who's one of the most gifted offensive players in the history of basketball, for a dude that would not have played for them this year. So right. Yeah, I'd say that's a pretty big upgrade.
Yeah, and they've really, this is, we talk futures market. This is like really futures, so it goes beyond what we've got on the DraftKings Sportsbook for you right now. But they've really got a couple-year window before that contract gets really nuts for James Harden, and it just, is prohibitive to the point where they can actually have the ability to win.
Right.
Anything.
Well, the initial report was that Harden was going to pick up his player option for next year, which is $47 million. But then it turns out there were conflicting reports today that he has not picked up the player option. So we'll see what kind of deal gets done. I ideally you get him on that player option, because then you have two chances to try and win a title with him and Joel Embiid, and you don't have to pay him.
We'll do football in a moment, Lamarck. I want to ask you, there were so many other trades yesterday, and we won't go one by one, obviously, because again, we did a lot of that yesterday, and also we want to do a lot of football here in this show. But was there another trade that to you, it really swayed the futures market, really impacted how we should view a team for the stretch run of this regular season?
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I am taking away is I think the Bucks are the best value on the board at plus 700. I know that they haven't been great this year. They're haven't, but there's always kind of like a little bit of a hangover after you win the title. Giannis is still playing incredible basketball. And in my opinion, their biggest competition, the Brooklyn Nets, got weaker. So I think the Bucks are a nice bet to win the title at 7-1. None of the other contenders really made a huge move. I thought the best move of the day was made by your team, Adam Kaufman, the Boston Celtics.
Here we go.
Now, granted, that first round pick that they gave up, maybe it comes back to bite them, but Derek White's a really good player. So, it had a couple of big blows. That Harden for Simmons trade was at one of the biggest deals that we've seen in the NBA in a long time. And Sabonis for Tyrese Halliburton, another big deal that went down on Tuesday. But, most of the teams that are the true title contenders, the Warriors, the Suns, the Jazz, if you want to throw the Lakers in there, I guess you can, but I wouldn't. They all kind of stood pat, made some very minor moves here and there. And I think that the Bucks are my favorite value on the board right now.
Yeah, and even ignoring value, I just think they're the pick to come out of the East right now. I really believe that, despite what everyone feels about the Brooklyn Nets, or at least odds makers. But fellas, let's get to football. We've got about a half hour, so plenty of time to do it. And so we had to wake Bukes up here a little bit. So yeah, crack those knuckles and get involved. And let's look at this thing here. We're sitting on the DraftKings Sportsbook. Let's start with the DraftKings Sportsbook here for Super Bowl 56. Some of our crew out in Los Angeles waiting this thing out. I know technically the Rams are the visiting team, but obviously they are hosting the Bengals in their home stadium here. And the Rams at home are favored by 4 points. and they are the over-under sitting at 48.5. These two numbers, before we dive deeper into some of the props and other odds and stuff like that available, Bukes, how are you feeling about, who's going to win this game, whether or not they cover? Will we get high scoring game, offense? What is your overall feeling about this game here?
I mean, nothing's really changed for me. Like, I continue to bet the Bengals. I'm going to be betting the Bengals again already. I'm in this on both sides. I mean, I had the Rams to win the Super Bowl back when they got Von Miller 8-1. Immediately hedged when the Bengals made it on the plus 160. So it's almost a wash for me at this point. But I still think the Bengals are going to be the team that ends up covering in this game at +4. Too many points. It's just too many points for these teams, and a team that is defied the odds, I guess you could say, knocking off the Titans, knocking off the Chiefs. Regardless of if it was close games or not, you're giving them 4 points. It's been up to 4.5. So I still think the Bengals are the right side in this game. I'm still conflicted on the over-under, because it really comes down to if that Bengals offensive line can hold up like they did against the Chiefs. You're facing the best pass rush in the league, and if they can make the adjustments that they did in that second half against the Chiefs, then you have a much better offensive plan for the Bengals. If they can't make that adjustment against the Rams, this is not going to be a high-scoring game by any means. I really think it comes down to how well this Bengals offensive line plays if you're going to hit that over or the under. I really think it comes down to that there, because otherwise, both these offenses should be flying against each other. So it really comes down to that Bengals offensive line for me.
Marco, what about you?
Yeah, I think the Bengals offensive line is the clear talking point. And I don't think that they played nearly as well as their final numbers suggested in that Chiefs game, right? They gave up 9 sacks against the Titans, but they allowed Joe Burrow to be pressured 19 times.
Mm-hmm.
There were only 1 sack against the Chiefs, but they still allowed 16 quarterback pressures in that matchup. So the Titans or the Bengals offensive line still left Burrow under pretty relentless fire. Again, I think the Chiefs, I don't know what happened to them in the second half. They just kind of gave the game away with some of their decision making. So I've come around to the Rams as the side here. I want to grab them ideally at less than 4 points. If it stays at 4, I don't think that there's a ton of value in that number. I think that like if you look at just the like the power ratings for each of these teams, 4 points is probably a little bit too much, like Steve said. But I just think that the mismatch in the trenches is enough that I'm willing to grab the Rams in, a home game for whatever that's worth.
And to Marcus' point too, like right now, if you were going to take the Rams at like -3, it's at -155, like -2.5 is -160. Like you're basically at or getting close to the money line for the Rams. So if you're like in that realm, it's like, do you really want to, pay the premium on maybe 2.5 points? At that point, you're getting close to, you could just straight up take the Rams money line too. So it's like, this 4 points, it's been sitting here for basically since it opened, right? It opened, I think it opened at 4.5, and then it's just been jumping up and down since. So it's, at this point, it's kind of, for me, and, LaMarca, you can speak to this or not, like, are you really going to pay -160 for -2.5 or 155 for -3?
No, but I think that there's a chance that this line drops to 3.5. And that's really when I would be most interested in taking them. I don't want to pay extra juice. It's a bad, never buy points. If there's one thing you ever listen to me, it's that you should never buy points. Yeah, maybe you'll remember the time when you lose by a half a point or whatever, but the amount of extra money you're going to be giving away on your losses is just completely not worth it. So never buy points. Take whatever the posted line is, lay the -110, -115. But like I said, I think this line is trending towards Rams 3.5. So if that pops, that's when I will be most interested in targeting them.
Something that obviously is, pretty atypical during the regular season, but, becomes that much more common in the playoffs and certainly for the Super Bowl, is that as we sit here, like I said, 48, 49 hours away from kickoff at this point, we got the final injury report. Tyler Higbee's not going to play. No surprise there. Henderson is active, so you got that 3 running back committee at least, or at least, we'll see if they're all part of this game. CJ Uzomah, who of course got banged up in the divisional round and is going to play, but how much we don't know. There's not a lot that we're waiting on at this point, Bukes, between now and game time. So it just becomes telling yourself a story of how you believe this game is going to play out. Again, whether from a betting perspective or a daily fantasy perspective, is there anything that you're really left thinking about at this point, or is it just kick this game off and let's go?
Well, I mean, speaking about the MVP, because you have it up here, I'm kind of surprised that Donald is leading the MVP bets on DraftKings Sportsbook. Like, I get the 16-1 is an enticing number, but I don't know. Like, realistically, like, is he going to be the reason or the MVP that the Rams win this game?
How many times have we even had a defensive player win MVP at the Super Bowl?
More than you think.
It is more than you think, but it's not much, right? So, I mean, Stafford at even money, I'm not crazy about, that number there either. I mean, I don't think you're getting enough on your return that I'm taking him at even money. But I was surprised that Donald at 16-1 is the leading candidate for MVP on DraftKings Sportsbook in terms of bet and handle, handle and bets amount right now. But like, I just look at some of the other guys that could be factors here, like Chase at 18-1 or Beckham at 28-1. Huge game in the last championship for them too. I just think there's a lot of different ways you can go for MVP, but I'm not saying that Donald is a bad bet, especially with the odds that you're getting here, but I'm just surprised that he's leading the way right now.
LaMarca, is there anything that you're waiting on at this point as far as, between now and game time? Anything that you're still left thinking about?
Nah, news-wise, I think we're pretty much good to go. I mean, the only thing is Tyler Higbee, and does that really matter? Not really. I mean, I guess it kind of matters if you're building some showdown lineups. Maybe you can get some Delano Banton exposure if Higbee is ruled out. But other than that, nah, let's play the game.
So as we look here again, DraftKings Sportsbook has so much available to you for this game, whether it's player specials, novelty props, MVP, like we're looking at right now. Where should people be going, Bukes? What you've had time to peruse everything that the Sportsbook has to offer. What do you think is most appealing to people?
I think taking a lot of unders on Cam Akers with the news that we're going to get a 3-headed running back crew here. And Sean McVay has basically kind of said he's going to be going with the hot hand here. So you look at the rushing attempts for Cam Akers, currently set at 16.5. That's a lot of carries for a team that's going to be deploying 3 running backs in this game. The under is getting the juice right now at -130. So that number is obviously taking some handle right now. But, Sony Michel's in the mix. Henderson has been activated. I mean, this could be more of, Higbee's going to be out, so they do have an open spot that they can use. But if McVay is not exactly giving us the confirmation that Akers is going to be the top guy, him to get over 17 carries feels like a real stretch at this point. And this is somebody who's had ball security issues since he came back. He had those 2 crucial fumbles against the 49ers that, that could have led to the Rams not even being here. So you kind of put all that together. Like, I love taking under 16.5 carries for Cam Akers. I love taking under 84.5 rushing and receiving yard for Cam Akers. Henderson's active. Michel is active. This all just feels like inflated numbers for Akers, who has not looked good since he's come back onto the field. So that is something I've been looking at. And with the confirmation that Henderson is active, I'm going to be taking these Akers unders.
LaMarca, what jumps out to you?
I want to go to the Super Bowl specials tab.
Let's go, baby. Here we go.
Happy to do it. What do you got? Where do you want to be here?
Yours looks different than mine. So first, you can bet on the coin toss, and my advice is don't do that. Okay, don't bet on the coin toss.
Haven't you heard tails never fails?
It's a 50-50 bet that you have to lay more than 50% on. It's just bad math, Kaufman. Second,
it is bad math, but you can get a little boost in that bankroll immediately before a kickoff even happens.
Okay, sure.
Sure.
You're a company man. I get it.
Not at all.
I had to look this up though. Okay. And I can't tell you the last time I had to look up something on the sports book. There is a prop that says, will there be an octopus?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about that yesterday on the show. Until I saw that, I had no idea what an octopus was.
Never heard this term before in my life, but
Me
apparently an octopus is you have to score the touchdown and the 2-point conversion.
Correct.
8. Yeah, see?
The more you know.
8 legs.
What do you think?
No feels pretty thin there. I know you never bet a minus 2,500 prop, but I mean that the true odds of that have to be way higher than minus 2,500.
We were looking at the math yesterday at how often it had happened something like 170 times in obvious overall, like regular season playoffs. It happened 169-70 times, something like that, since 1994.
Correct. Yes.
So however many times that is per year, I don't feel like doing the math, but it's
so
not
hold
a lot.
on. So hold on. So LaMarca does not want to bet on the coin toss, but he's willing to bet on will there be an octopus? No. And if you put $100 down, you profit $4. That's what you want to bet on, but not the coin toss.
Well, the answer is yes. I think it's a better bet from a math perspective, but you have to be working with more than $100. I'll bet 2,500 on that to win 100.
I want to see it.
I'll send you.
Yeah, I'd like to see that slip too.
You know what it is? LaMarca's doing some big time card breaks lately, and I think it's getting to his head that he wants to start taking these bets. I think that's what's happening right now.
I like some of the.
In all seriousness, I understand that a minus $2,500 bet is just not appealing, but it's all math, right? It's all math. Everything is math,
right?
Like minus 2,500 odds converts to.
Break out the calculator.
96% implied odds. I think that's too low.
Yeah,
I think that the odds are true. Like the true odds based on the numbers that we have seen are 98, 99+%, making this a good bet. Now, you have to have a bankroll to make this bet worth it. And if there is an octopus, you're going to see me just straight crying in the streets. But mathematically, it has to be a good bet because that's what the numbers say.
Yep. To me, there's no such thing as a good bet that involves spending 2,500 to only win 100.
I guess you don't need that $100.
Some
of us are out here grinding for 100.
Right.
I don't need it that bad. No, not to wager 2,500. Let's go to let's take a look at the NFL Showdown $6 million Super Bowl 56 millionaire contest. $1 million going to first place, $15 to enter. It's sitting in the lobby. Encourage you to jump in, obviously. And guys, this is I've been thinking about this a lot today, in particular, just because this really is. It's not like building a classic slate. This is a showdown. There's the amount of variance, obviously, that you could get in this one singular game. You truly have to. This is one of those situations where I wonder, do you fall in love with the numbers, the metrics, the projections, LaMarca, or do you take a little individual walk down narrative street and decide, how do I think this game is going to play out? Are you building your lineup based around the fact that you believe, let's say, the Bengals are going to have the upset? What is your approach?
It's all math, Kaufman. Everything is math, bro. I'm looking at projected ownerships, and I'm just trying to leverage them out to the likelihood that is going to be the outcome, right? So, like, if Cooper Kupp is going to carry, 50% ownership, do I think there's a greater than 50% chance that he finds himself in the winning lineup at the end? And the answer to that question, by the way, is yes. I love Cooper Kupp because he's Cooper Kupp.
Sure.
And basically that's what I'm doing for most of these picks. I will look at things like correlation. I want to make sure that my players are in a position to succeed, when the right game script hits. But a lot of it is going to be based off of the field and what they choose to do. I'll say my favorite play just from a pricing perspective right now is T Higgins at 7,600. Higgins has gotten a lot of like steam recently. I've even seen some people bet him to win the MVP in this game at 46 to 1. But there's a legit chance that he's going to be busy, right? He's had 9+ targets in back-to-back weeks. The Rams could do some shadowing with Jalen Ramsey. I don't know if that would actually deter Joey Burr from targeting Jamar Chase in that situation, but there's a scenario where T. Higgins has like a big game.
Higgins is projected to be owned about a third of lineups right now, sitting around 34% of lineups, based on anyway what I'm looking at the moment. I just, you look at some of these salaries here, Bukes, and short of deciding, all right, I'm going to pay down at captain and I'm going to captain Cam Akers, or I'm going to captain T. Higgins, or even more so, go down to a Tyler Boyd, a Van Jefferson. If you believe Sony Michel's going to be impactful, if you want to get nuts and go with a kicker or something like that. Ultimately, if you're not captaining one of these upper echelon guys, Cooper, Stafford, Burrow, to give you more room, Chase as well, you're going to be fading multiple potential key contributors to this game. How ultimately are you deciding who you believe is the guy who's not going to go off, who you don't need exposure to?
Well, the funny thing is like sometimes with these showdown, games you have, like there's just not enough depth on the teams that it's like, okay, well, I can't fade a couple of these top guys because there's no one else to go. Like, I feel like both of these teams do have guys that it's like, okay, if I do fade a couple of these guys, I still feel comfortable using some of the other ones. Like, if you fade Chase, right, it's not as drastic as if you fade Kupp. Because if you fade Chase, there's still realistically Boyd, Higgins, who are very involved. If you fade Kupp, which is scary, but there's still like Beckham who's still involved. Like I would be okay with even using Van Jefferson, who doesn't get a ton, but like he's one of those deep downfield guys. You don't get that with a lot of other teams. You do get that with these ones here. But I'm just going back. I have no problem fading Akers. Like I am going to be actively fading Akers in these games because he also falls into a really unique salary range, because he's at 6,400, which is like right on the brink of where the value really starts to drop off after that. But he's also not too expensive either, that it's like, if right above him is Higgins and Beckham, where most people are going to go. So it's kind of like an odd spot where people might look at him and go, oh, he's actually at a decent price point at 6,400 for someone who's going to be always on the field. But I don't know if that's the case anymore. Not as much as he's been since he's come back over the past couple of weeks. So I have no problem fading Akers. Like I'm certainly not making him a captain if I'm fading him, but I have no problem fading because I much rather have someone like Higgins or Beckham, who is a few $1,000s more. Right below him, Tyler Boyd, Van Jefferson, like guys who I think have much better upside than Akers. So Akers is someone I have no problem fading at all.
Akers projected to be owned about 30% of lineups as things stand right now. We'll see, obviously, if that changes between now and kickoff based on that news that we got about the running backs that we mentioned earlier. What about for you, Lamarca? How do you decide who you're willing to fade among the higher priced guys here?
Math.
Okay. Well, do it. Well, do a little math for me.
No, I think, again, ownership projections are going to come into play. The single game slate is it's a different beast, right? Like, right. You have to really be willing to get weird. And if anybody knows anything about me, Matt Lamarca can get a little weird. You know what I'm saying?
I've heard that.
So you got to try and find some, you're going to have to take stands on guys. I think I'm fine with being underweight on Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase is a great player. He has a huge ceiling, but, it feels like the price tag on him has gotten a little bit high recently. Mm-hmm. I'm okay with not necessarily having a ton of Matt Stafford at his current price tag.
Yeah.
I'll use a lot of Cooper Kupp, but again, I don't think Kupp necessarily needs a huge game from Stafford to pay off his salary. My favorite plays at the moment, you've got Cooper Kupp, you've got T. Higgins. I'm with Steve on Odell. I think he's pretty solid. And I think the Rams defense is the biggest way you can save money on this slate. I really like them. I mentioned the Cincinnati Pressure stats, the Rams have the best defense in the league in terms of pass rush win rate, which is a ESPN stat. Sounds good enough to me. Pass rush win rate.
Wow.
So I think this is a pretty big mismatch.
So you brought up Stafford. I was going to ask you about him. If you're building a lineup, let's say you want Cooper Kupp. Let's say you want Cooper Kupp in the captain spot. That's where most people probably are going to have him. If not in the flex, he's going to be heavily rostered, because I think people will just have trouble sleeping at night if they don't roster Cooper Kupp, no matter how this thing goes. Do you want Matt Stafford and the higher floor if you're rostering one quarterback, or do you want Joe Burrow, who's got the higher ceiling?
I think if you're I think if you're captaining Cooper Kupp, you really should almost be looking at fading Stafford but taking Burrow, because I think there's a high chance that if Cooper Kupp is having this monster game, right, you need
Burrow to be doing a lot of passing.
You need Burrow to be doing a lot of passing, and that's the thing. And kind of go off Lamarca, right? If you have Cooper Kupp, you take Joe Burrow. You don't use Jamar Chase, but you take him, and now you can get multiple pass catchers in that lineup. So you can take Burrow with Higgins and Boyd, and you're still in a decent spot salary-wise, because you got 2 spots left now to fill out the rest of your lineup with an average of 4,500. So then you take someone like Matt Gay, right, as for a kicker, because you're obviously kind of planning here that the Rams are up, and Cooper Kupp's a big reason for that. And then you just take a long shot on one of these other guys. Maybe it's P. Ryan, because he's trying to catch on third down or something like that. So like that's your lineup right there. But I think it's when people are trying to, and Burrow and Stafford are only a couple $100 difference, so it's not that big of a salary savings. But for me, that's a game script that I want to build on, because Cooper Kupp's having one of these games. He scores 2 touchdowns. Burrow needs to pass a lot. I'm fading his top receiver, and I'm getting in a couple of his other ones. So that's just something that I'd be looking to do. But obviously, Lamarca might have a different strategy here too.
Matty?
No, I like that call, Steve. I think, but for different reasons. I think that if you look at people who are using Cooper Kupp in the captain spot, there's going to be a lot of ownership tied to Matt Stafford as well. People want to build that stack. So by going Cooper Kupp with Joe Burrow, even though those 2 players aren't necessarily directly linked, we know that quarterbacks and opposing wide receiver ones have nice correlation numbers historically. It's why people have started building stacks like that include a bring back from the other team. But more importantly, I just think that the ownership on that stack is going to be significantly lower than Kupp with Stafford directly.
What about if you were, people are going to get, like you said, people are going to get weird chasing $1 million, obviously. But if you just wanted to sort of maximize your exposure to some degree anyway, let's say Kupp's your captain, you wanted both QBs, that leaves you with almost no money. Almost no money. You're getting obscenely cheap down here. Or obviously, if you want exposure to, those 3 top guns, but you're captaining someone super cheap, again, Bukes in particular, you're shaking your head. So there's no combination that involves Kupp and the 2 quarterbacks that you like.
No, you're limiting yourself way too much, right? Like, what's the realistic thing that you could have both quarterbacks and Kupp, and then like who's the guy you're pairing with Burrow, right? Like there isn't that guy that you could fit, because look, can you do it? Yes. But it's like, I feel like you're limiting yourself too much, because you're not going to be taking advantage properly of the 1.5 time fantasy output you're going to get from your captain, because you're just going to throw some Jamoke in there, right? Like, what are you going to put a kicker in there or something like that? Like, you'd have to bank on Gay or McPherson getting at least probably 18 to 20 points in the captain spot. Not unreasonable, but like, the way that I don't see a scenario where that's going to work out into your favor. Like, it looks good that you go, oh, I got both quarterbacks in Cooper Kupp.
McPherson's been putting up 15 to 20 in the flex his last few games.
I don't like it.
What's his nickname? Money Mac. Yeah, Money Mac has been money. He's been Money Mac recently. Here's the one pushback that I have, and I agree with Steve.
I'm not saying it's an ideal strategy. I'm just talking about sort of outside the box approaches.
Well, let him talk.
We have seen showdown winners this year that basically pay for the most expensive guys, and then have one $200 player that catches a random pass or something like that. I think if you want to go that route, your best bet is to go for Bryson Hopkins. He's $200. He is the Rams' number 3 tight end. Now number 2 tight end.
Yep.
Okay. He may see a couple of snaps in this game, and you never know, right? Tight ends, where are they used primarily? Down by the red zone, in the end zone area. If they go heavy set, maybe this dude catches a touchdown. I don't know. It's possible. And and there's also a chance that you can win with him doing very little, right? We used to see this all the time, Kaufman, in the Madden simulations.
Yep.
Right? You would just have one guy
you'd have the one goose egg.
Nothing, but it allows you to get all the big time studs into your lineup. So that's the way that I would approach it if you wanted to go that route.
Yeah, Henderson 1,600 if you believe he's going to have any impact. P. Ryan, who has actually been, I'm not saying he's a good play at 2,400, but at least he's been somewhat active the last couple of weeks.
Look at that
3 in the
beard.
touchdown last week. But
looks a little Santa Claus-ish.
You know what? P. Ryan is going to end up being one of the most popular value plays, but like the bust potential for him is extraordinary because Mixon is being used so much more in the passing game, especially than he was in the beginning of the season. Like he was hard pressed to get more than 2 targets a game. I'm almost positive he caught the first 2 passes for the Bengals in that game against the Chiefs. Like they are, and especially if that pressure is going to be there, you want Mixon. P. Ryan's not going to be on the field for the first couple of downs, right? He's on there. He's a 3rd down back at best. So if you think that they're going to get a lot of pressure on him, then you want Mixon in there. So I think P. Ryan's the guy that is going to have the highest ownership of those value guys and probably has the highest bust potential of them as well.
He's projected to be owned right around 7 or 8% at the moment. Can either of you, and Bukes, you were just talking about, I'll go back to you. Can either of you make a case for rostering a DST in this game?
Oh, no doubt.
I already did.
Yeah. Well, we were just talking about that.
I mean, like a convincing, like you would lean toward it. You believe it is the right move to do.
I'll repeat myself since Kaufman wasn't listening earlier.
Right. He's thinking about
the Rams. Remember, I was talking about
every word.
Pass rush win rate, the highest pass rush win rate in the entire league. The Rams defense facing an offensive line that has at least 16 pressures allowed in 2 straight games. That sounds like a good play to me.
Wasn't Burrow the most sacked quarterback in the league? Was it Burrow? Did it end up being him?
I don't know about the regular season, but he's been sacked a dozen times in the playoffs.
I think during the regular season he was. I think it was Burrow, if I remember correctly. But that was like a month ago. I can't remember that far back. But I believe Burrow was the most sacked quarterback in the league during the regular season. If that's not enough reason to play a DST, I don't know what is.
Well, Bengals on the other side, I get the star power on the Rams side, obviously, but the Bengals 8 sacks, 6 turnovers the last 3 games, and of course, as we know, Stafford is turnover prone. He's been picked. Well, see,
that's the thing. Like if you're in that range, and you have enough money for the Bengals DST, I would 100% play them over P. Ryan every single time because they have definitely the higher output probability over P. Ryan because. And you just mentioned it. Stafford is turnover prone. He can certainly get sacked. He can turn it over. Led the league in pick sixes during the regular season with 4. So it's not like they can't have that. And Hilton has been low key really good. Mike Hilton has been really good for the Bengals during these playoffs. I think he has 2 interceptions if I have that correctly, but he's been really good for them too. So I would say if you're in that value range, the Bengals ownership I can't even imagine is close to what the Rams are going to be. So that's a pivot play or value play you can consider.
LaMarca, how about a prediction for this game? Final score, just for funsies.
Rams 21, Bengals 17.
Oh, so he's
way under.
Yeah,
way under. What about you, Bukes?
Bengals, I'm going to say 27, Rams 24.
Okay, I went Bengals 27-21 earlier. So you and I are on the same page. I don't know.
That sucks.
It's a scary
production
thought.
team.
Yeah.
I want you to clip this save it. When the Rams win this game, 21-17, you play it back. That's how I want to be introduced on every show if that happens.
As the guy who nailed the exact score for Super Bowl 56.
I mean, you can bet it on DraftKings Sportsbook.
Oh,
You
I
can
have
bet everything in DraftKings Sportsbook.
You can. Even what's an octopus? You know, somebody, I don't know if they were being serious or not, but they responded and said, "Oh, I thought you meant like an actual octopus," and they seemed pretty upset.
I think that needs like a little question, like a little information box or something.
Do we think an octopus was just going to be thrown into the end zone from the stands?
I thought
This
it was
isn't
like
Buffalo.
a Detroit Red Wings thing. You know, when a guy gets a hat trick in Detroit, they throw an octopus on the
Right.
ice.
Yeah. Get a squid thrown out there or something.
I was like, "There's going to be octopus here? Why? What is going on?"
Well, you know,
we did have to look that up yesterday.
Some idiot who's not going to know what it is going to bring an octopus to the field, and they will throw it, and then other people are going to be like, "Oh, I won!" And
See,
like,
I got it.
Yeah. Well,
This is, and just to pivot off that, this is why we need the Bills in the Super Bowl at some point, because there will be a prop about bringing
table.
certain
Go ahead.
phallic objects.
What's that now?
Oh. That prop. Got it.
Thrown into the stands.
Yep. Well, thrown somewhere. Good
All
time
right.
to wrap
Hey.
the show.
Yeah, it seems like a good time. Thanks to producer Eamon. Thanks to Drew, our technical director. Of course, Bukes, Lamarca, I'm Kaufman. We appreciate everyone hanging out here with us. Last time here, at least before the big game on the slate. That is coming your way Sunday. Of course, you'll have the Sweat Sunday mornings. Make sure you check that out on the DraftKings YouTube channel. Coverage out in Los Angeles as well from the DraftKings crew. So that's always a fun time. I think, speaking of Buffalo, Josh Allen was at the DK house earlier today. So we got some great stuff coming your way. Make sure you tune in, check all of it out, get your bets in, play your lineups, all that good stuff. We thank you for being with us. We'll catch you again soon. Bye, Tom.